Warning. This episode contains adult language and adult humor.
Since when have trumpet players ever been considered adults?
If you are easily offended by these types of conversations, consider switching to the oboe. Welcome to the Trumpet Gurus Hang Podcast. I'm your host, Jose Johnson. My guest for this episode is Josh Rzepka. Josh is a man of many talents: trumpet player, content creator, photographer, author, and mute expert extraordinaire. A moderator of Positive Trumpeters Worldwide, Josh is all about education, growth, opportunity, and encouragement. His wildly popular Mute Monday video series on YouTube is slick, fun, and entertaining. And after spending a few minutes with him, you'll understand why. So, pour yourself a big glass, pull up a chair, and let the hang begin. Welcome to this episode of the Trumpet Gurus podcast, the hang as you would or as you will. And this is the first episode of the new year. And I'm really happy to have Mr. Josh Rzepka with me today. And Josh, you're all the way in Chicagoland, eh?
I am, yes. I'm very
awesome.
happy to be here today. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure. I've been following the stuff that you've been doing recently. I mean, getting into this world of podcast and content creation. You know, you want to look at people that are doing things and doing good things, and you have put out some really amazing stuff, both in the quality of the the video production and just the information you're presenting is just golden. So let's talk a little bit about that stuff. I mean, you've been doing this Mute Monday thing for a bit, and how did you get started doing that?
Mute Monday. Well, how did I get started? I think for a number of years now, I've been like a YouTube junkie, if I could say that. I'm a very, heavy YouTube watcher. There's a lot of different creators that I follow, and I've kind of had this aspiration that I was going to create content for YouTube and possibly make vlogs while I'm on the road. And, well, I found myself with a lot of time on my hands recently.
Why would that be?
And basically, I decided, it's like, okay, I'm going to start creating content now, and I'm going to put it out. And I've got this enormous mute collection, which I developed over years and years while I was searching for the perfect Harmon mute. I had a weekly jazz trio gig here in the North Burbs of Chicago for a couple of years, and it was in a restaurant, and it was muted the whole gig. So
okay.
I was constantly buying Harmon mutes, just trying to find the right one. You know, what was going to just sound perfect through this Rode NT1A microphone, through my Bose system, perfect in the restaurant.
Right.
And I was just buying mute after mute after mute. And, well, eventually, I just had dozens of Harmon mutes. So years back, I put together a compilation video of all these Harmon mutes. And, well, YouTube seemed to really dig it. And that's kind of what I was looking at this past summer. I've got all these mutes. I've got this interest. Why don't I do something with them? So I started this Mute Monday series basically to try and help out all my fellow trumpet players to know what different types of mutes are out there. Maybe a little bit about the history, because I spent so much time identifying them, trying to figure out what decade, what era they're from, and they kind of just got out of control from there.
Yeah. Well, we trumpet players tend to be gearheads. And, I know plenty of people that have 150 mouthpieces. I didn't really know anybody until you that had, that level of a collection of mutes. So kudos to you for that.
Yeah, I really only have a handful of mouthpieces. I think mutes are a lot less expensive to collect, actually.
Well, yeah, there is that. So it started with Harmon mutes, and did you then expand out to fill the void?
Yeah, well, so this was like years back that I did that first video, and then my YouTube channel kind of sat barren for a number of years. And when I got the new KR Indigo Max mute from Kenny Rampton,
yeah,
and I was like, man, this is great. And he was getting all these reviews online, and I was like, all right, I've got to make a review about this because I love this mute. So instead of just creating that mute, I created a series, and that was the first video that I did. And I compared that with a bunch of different with a bunch of different plunger mutes that I had, and it kind of took off from there. But from the beginning, I decided it was going to be a weekly series, just to kind of push myself to do something.
Right.
And that really turned out to be like a big blessing, something that was great for this period of lockdown and COVID, because I was able to then have something that I was working towards each week.
Right.
And it kind of started building from there.
Yeah, cool. And with the mutes that you have been playing with most recently, what are your babies?
Ooh. Well, there's a couple that I go to, I always go back to no matter what. And with the Harmon mute, I'm always going back to that 1925 stamped Harmon. I've got a handful of them. And in my opinion, that is the classic Harmon sound. And that's the sound that's on all the classic recordings.
Right.
And so that was ingrained in our ears from a young age. But something about how they made it back then, it was a thinner metal, and it was just put together a little bit differently. And that I love. And of course, the vintage Ray Robinsons I'm going back to all the time because those are so great. I think that for me, a lot of the mutes that I gravitate towards are ones that are fulfilling this sound that I had in my ears.
Right.
From listening to Diz, from listening to Miles. All these old classic recordings, those are the sounds. And that's what got me into the vintage mutes.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. I mean, that's a perfect example of taking this kind of niche approach to things. I mean, trumpet in the world of trumpet by itself is a niche, but then you're kind of really dialing down into something that not a whole lot of people really have expressed a whole lot of knowledge on that subject, but it's something that's important to all of us, and if you don't have a resource that can say, yeah, this is, if you're looking for this sound, this is the mute that you need to check out, as opposed to, well, this is the one we have in stock, just buy it. So that's really great information. So I want to jump for a second back to your early days. You're originally from Toledo, correct?
I'm from Akron, actually.
Akron. Oh man, even
Akron.
worse. Yeah, I'm from Columbus, so.
All right.
Yeah, so we'll take that. Yeah, the Akron Canton, area, and I drove through that area way too many times. So, but what got you to go from Ohio? I know you went to Oberlin, correct?
Yeah, I went to Oberlin for my undergraduate, and at Oberlin I did a double degree. Well, it was a single degree, but it was a double major. So I was classical and jazz trumpet.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I really recommend that to many people, actually, because it's not something you necessarily want to put yourself through.
Yeah.
2 lessons a week, double recitals, double ensembles, double everything.
Yeah.
But I was in Ohio basically into my early 20s because of that. And then I went to Boston University for my master's. So I did live in Boston for 2 years.
Okay. And then you end up in Chicago.
Yeah. I moved to Chicago for one of the better reasons. And that was to follow my girlfriend, who's now my wife. We had been dating for a while, and as it was getting serious, that drive from Ohio to Chicago.
Oh man.
Oh my god. I tell everyone it's like being in an old Nintendo video game where the background just keeps recycling.
Yeah.
Like that stretch through Indiana, it's just mind numbing.
Yeah, I've gone that route a few times, and I'm happy I don't have to do it anymore. So the question of the day would be, how does your wife, how does she tolerate your mute collection?
Well, she knows what's showing up in the mail for me. That's for certain. Mutes have a very distinctive box shape. They're not too small. They're not too big. But I don't give her grief for any of her packages, and she doesn't give me any grief for my packages.
All right. Well, that's the secret to a happy relationship right there. So, with you're mentioning the Ray Robinsons, and you're in Chicago, so I'm sure that you have had some conversations about mutes with Roger Ingram.
Yes. Well, man, I learned so much. I mean, trumpet, but mutes from Roger. And he is just an encyclopedia of mute history, especially with the Ray Robinsons, with Humes and Berg, with Shastock, with all these old companies. He's got copies of the patents. He's visited all of the actual locations where the factories were. It's totally crazy.
Well,
Roger can pick up a mute. He can look inside of it. He's got like a special, tool that goes inside, and it's got a light on the end. And he can look inside of it, and just based on how it was assembled, based on the glue, based on the types of paint, he can tell you within a couple years when it was manufactured.
that's nuts.
It's totally out of control,
Yeah.
and it's incredible. But he has restored so many mutes, and he's put in all that research. So I'm very fortunate that I was able to, learn so much from him. And anytime I get a mute that I'm kind of stumped by, he's one of the first people I send it to, just to see what he can tell me about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's always good to have resources. So you're like pretty much everybody else. Your gigging has definitely been affected by the COVID situation. So with this Mute Monday that you're doing, and you also have like a pro tips kind of.
Yeah, I'm doing all these trumpet tips, and I've got, I guess I would say, 2 more different series types of videos that I'm starting now in 2021. So I'm really kind of trying to expand that a bit.
Yeah. Well, do you see yourself? I mean, hopefully we're all going to be in a position where we're able to get out and start making music, in public once again. But do you really see yourself trying to maintain your momentum on the YouTube stuff as well?
Certainly. Yeah, this has kind of been, like I said, I've been like aspirational as far as wanting to dive into YouTube a bit. And I think especially in this day and age, it's so important. And I mean, just by the numbers, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world.
Yeah.
Second to Google, which owns YouTube. And there is a way that you can connect with so many people on YouTube. And whether that's just for promoting yourself as a musician for future gigs, or, just trying to develop a reputation so that you can become an expert. And, maybe if you have a book or if you have a course or teach lessons, whatever that may be, I think it's a pretty essential part of the modern day musician.
Right. And speaking of which, you were talking about Roger. Roger's kind of your go-to then for the mute information, and that's part of what the show's about, is kind of bringing experts to the general public, the trumpet playing public, I should say, because there's nothing general about us, but everybody has got some sort of a mentor or guru that they look to, if you're really trying to get to that higher level. So in terms of like YouTube, who are some of the people that you followed and maybe try to model your approach after?
There's a lot, probably ones that a lot of your audience may not be that familiar with, because these are primarily kind of like video film creator types. So people like Peter McKinnon, big fan of Peter McKinnon. Of course, Casey Neistat is like the godfather of vlogs, and his style and the way that he kind of put together all, his career and videos is pretty incredible. And one creator that really, I think, does an excellent job, and I've been kind of modeling some of my things off of, is Jared Polin, and he goes by Fro Knows Photo. So I'm kind of like a big, photo video, enthusiast, I would say.
Okay.
While I'm on the road, so typically when the world isn't shut down, I'm on the road with a band called Under the Street Lamp,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of like Jersey Boys.
Okay.
4 singers, 7-piece band, and we generally play, I would say, like 600 to 1,800 seat theaters,
Mm-hmm.
and we do, I would say, maybe 55 to 70 shows a year, somewhere around there.
Okay.
So I'm on the road a lot. I'm flying a lot. And over the last couple of years, I kind of became the in-house photographer and videographer. And I would haul my gear and tripods and remote shutters and everything. And I would take pictures and videos during shows. While we're playing, I could actually pull out my phone, have it on the stand, and I've got the show memorized. So I can have the phone on the stand, and I can actually see what's going on. I can tap to focus. And then I actually more recently picked up a gimbal. So I mount my camera on the gimbal, and then I can actually reframe the shot. I can move it all around. So I was doing photo stuff, I was doing video stuff, editing and production on the road. And I've actually also volunteered a couple times for ITG, taking some photos. So I've kind of been getting into the photo video world. And because of that, I was following all these photo video creators. And that was, I think, kind of honing my skill, over all these years. So by the time I was kind of ready to dive into YouTube, I felt like I was at a pretty comfortable skill set level.
Yeah.
Still plenty to learn.
Right.
But in the music world, there's a couple YouTubers that I would really recommend. Of course, a lot of people are familiar with Adam Neely. He has one of the best musician YouTube channels. Bob Reynolds does a great channel. He hasn't been uploading too much, but when he's on the road with Snarky Puppy, he's posting pretty frequently. And I mean, there's just so many that I follow. And I kind of take little bits of inspiration from each of them. And I'm kind of, trying to pick apart their style and their strategy. So hopefully then, once things start opening up again and I'm back on the road, I'll be able to continue making videos, but in a new way. And I'll be able to, take it on the road, as it were.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, it's like being a player, especially in the jazz world. But, where you're gaining insight from the people that you admire, the influencers that are out there, whether it be, a YouTube influencer or whether it be listening to Miles and Dizzy and people like that. It's ideally what we want to do is to pick up the things that make sense to us and that speak to us, and then incorporate that and create our own unique approach to things. But I think it's always best to go with a higher quality, and that's one of the things I really loved about your stuff is that there was from the first video I saw, it's like, this guy knows what he's doing. The way that everything is staged and the lighting and the presentation. I mean, everything is just definitely, it's not like you're sitting, even though you are sitting in your house, it's not like you're sitting in your garage with a tattered wall tapestry behind you or anything. It looks really cool, and I think that speaks a lot to that approach of learning and applying from the people that are doing what you want to do into the level you want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, for any of you out there, there's a lot of creators that have done just perfectly well and fine with an iPhone, with their whatever the saying is, the best camera is whatever camera you have in your hands.
Right.
And you can make it work with anything. But fortunately for me, I had this big, long-running interest in photography, in videography, and I've been doing it for enough years that I've been able to accumulate some pretty high-end gear. So it made it a little bit easier for me to dive in with that high level. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. I mean, it's just like, a great camera and you don't know how to use it is kind of like, having a great trumpet and not knowing how to blow it. It's not the instrument that does it. It's the player. So, speaking of playing, I see a copy of the Versatile Trumpeter sitting over there.
# product placement.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen this book before, this is a duet book that I wrote with Roger Ingram, and it's a fun duet book. I mean, Roger and I, we've known each other for a number of years now. I met him first at the ITG, and it was right when I moved to Chicago. So we connected on that immediately.
All right.
And then we started playing gigs together. Then I started going to his house and hanging, and I was bringing boxes of mutes. And, well, we would sit down and play duets. We had, different books, Arbans, everything we were playing through. And Roger is like a perfect example of the perpetual learner. He's always trying to improve. He's always trying to get better. And the last couple of years, he's been doing, some orchestra gigs and, C trumpet, something that he never played for his whole career. And he wants to get into it. And since I have this classical background, he would ask me some classical stuff. And, we kind of go back and forth. And I would get tips from him. And, well, eventually we're like, all right, we've been playing gigs. We enjoy playing together. We sound good playing together. Like, let's do something. Let's make a project. And that's what we came up with. And it was totally a blast for like 2 years working on that book with Roger.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I love when things like that start to happen. It's never anything that you really plan to do, but you're put in the right situation, and I think especially when, like you said, someone like Roger, who's just kind of a sponge, and just really he loves music, he loves trumpet, and so to be able to work with somebody like that and have that kind of open collaboration, that's kind of a very special.
And Roger loves collaborating. He loves working with other musicians, and he's always just kind of willing to, add his expertise and which is just a blessing, I think, for the trumpet world.
Yeah. Well, we definitely need more people like that. And speaking of kind of like cool people, you're highly active in the Facebook world as well as the YouTube world, and you're one of the moderators over at Positive Trumpet, correct?
Yeah, Positive Trumpeters Worldwide. So me and Troy, and then Vinny and Armida and Axel, we're kind of like the OG, co-founders. It was spearheaded by Troy, but Troy and I kind of laid the groundwork, and then Troy went out and found some more moderators, and now we're a year and change in. We're nearing 8,500 members. We did, I think, close to 50 or 60 live streams last year, warm-up sessions, interviews. So that's been pretty cool, and just a great way to stay kind of like, I don't know, you get a pulse of the trumpet community globally, because we've got people in like every country, and I think that's pretty awesome that we can really reach so many people.
Yeah, I really have enjoyed being a part of that community, and it's first of all, I just love the name, because there's just way too much negativity in the trumpet world, so just that whole concept of just being positive, and keeping it real at the same time. But so what was the impetus behind the formation of that group?
So the biggie was that, and we had a list of a lot of names that we kind of came through, but we really kind of gravitated, over and over to that Positive Trumpeters. And the real impetus was Troy, and he was just seeing there were so many groups that if you went and posted a video of yourself playing, it was just gonna, turn into a shit show. I mean, it was just gonna turn into just madness in the comment section. And people, they say stuff online that they're not gonna say to your face.
Yep.
They just little keyboard warriors, and they type stuff without really thinking of the ramifications. What the person on the other end may feel. And because of that, there are so many trumpeters out there, young, developing, impressionable trumpet players, and they're kind of afraid to post online, to get advice, to, put themselves out there. And well, that's a shame. So we were really trying to create a space, and that was like through Troy, because for a long time he wasn't posting online, and then he kind of started pushing himself to really upload videos of himself playing.
Right.
And you got to develop a thick skin for that.
Yeah.
Well, in Positive Trumpeters Worldwide, you don't, because it's part of the culture, it's part of the community. People are respectful. If someone feels a certain way about your video, you can, feel pretty confident that if it's negative, they're not going to post it. They'll keep it to themselves, which is what people should be doing anyway.
Yeah, it's that difference between constructive criticism and destructive criticism, and it's amazing, because I think that the power of social media, the power of technology as it stands now, whether it be looking at Facebook or like we were talking about YouTube, this is a time when information is so readily accessible, and this is a golden age of information and learning. And if we could take advantage of that without that fear, and like you were saying, there's so many young players out there that, man, they have access to people like you, to people like Roger, Vinny, all kinds of different people that could give some very, very beneficial feedback. Even, the things that I try to do here with this podcast, giving people insight into things that the average player is never going to hear, or at least when we're growing up, you would never really have this kind of access. And it's that fear that people have of putting themselves out there that I think that's really a detriment. And I really have to take my hat off, if I had one. I take my hat off to you guys and what you're doing with that, of just trying to provide that safe space. And it's not like, you do have to have a thick skin if you're a performer, because there are always going to be people who don't like what you do. But, as trumpet players, we should be doing so much more to build our community and to share our love with younger players, or, people that don't have all the benefits that we do. So
exactly. And also, we've really made a big effort to try and show exactly not just what the trumpet community is, but what the trumpet community can be, and provide, kind of good examples and role models, because there's some trumpet organizations out there, and maybe you go to their conferences and, you get a lot of people of a similar demographic.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of just incredible, fantastic players from all over the world, right? Of all genders, of all races. And it's important that we recognize that, and that we really, kind of highlight the fact that the trumpet world is bigger than just our own little community.
Yeah.
It's bigger than just, whatever organization or competition or this or that. There are so many players I never knew about that are just monster players, just unbelievable monster players. And I learned about them through PTW, just because we have that reach, and because we have moderators that live in different countries, and they run in different circles, and these are people that they know. These are their friends, and they say, hey, wait a minute, you should check out so-and-so, or we should have this person do a warm-up session. And it's just been incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is one of the things that I do love about the community. You get the warm-up sessions and the little classes that you have. So there's definitely the educational component to that, which is phenomenal, as well as the entertainment, because, we can go on there and just read all kinds of stupid stuff, and all the good kids. I'm saying stupid in the good way, it's just fun. It's the enjoyment of what we do. And you have a background in education as well as just performance. So what do you see as some of the crucial things that could be done right now to help this next generation of trumpet players to maximize their potential?
Ooh, good question. Now, I guess I would have to break that down and say, like, are you talking about young students? Are you talking about middle school, high school? Are you talking about college?
Yes, all of the above.
Well, let me start with college, and I'll make my way back to high school a little bit. I don't work with too many young kids. Every so often I do, but that's not exactly what I gravitate towards in my teaching. So, college, I think that they need to kind of revamp quite a bit of the curriculum and approach. This is just my opinion. Of course, everything with learning the trumpet, you need to learn how to play the trumpet. You need to be able to, execute well and play with your colleagues and ear training and theory and all of that. And history is necessary. I think history can be expanded quite a bit. It's not necessarily like Ken Burns where they stop in the 70s or whatever, but maybe giving a little more seriousness to the last 10 or 20 years of music and electronic music and pop music, because Irving Berlin was pop music at one point.
Right.
Michael Jackson was pop music. Billie Eilish, same thing. So it's a new decade, it's a new sound. And we really need to recognize and study that a little bit more, I think.
Yeah.
In terms of recognizing career opportunities, I think that's a big difference in what needs to kind of be acknowledged a little bit more. I think that it would really benefit a lot of players out there. Of all my classmates that I went to school with at Oberlin and BU, all the trumpet players, the majority of them, more than 50%, the majority of them aren't playing trumpet anymore. Or if they are, they're not playing professionally. And I think that, maybe they didn't want it. Maybe some of them, that wasn't necessarily right for them. It's really tough to know what's going to be, right for you when you're 18 years old or 17 and you're applying to colleges. But if you're prepared for the modern day, and that includes all social media, learning how to set up your own business, learning how to create, digital assets, just learning the importance of marketing, which kind of, in my opinion, the music world looks at marketing as like a four-letter word.
Yeah.
Which I think is a shame because, a lot of this, I mean, to be successful in practically anything, it's essential to have some type of marketing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try this on you. This is something that I always tell to people when I'm talking about marketing. Name off the top of your head 2 brands of peanut butter.
Skippy and Jif.
That is what everybody says. Everyone out there says Skippy, Jif. Sometimes they say Peter Pan,
Yeah.
but that's about it. Now, would you say that Skippy and Jif make the greatest peanut butter that's out there?
Absolutely not.
Not even close. But that's what everyone knows. That's what's at the top of everyone's mind. And that's marketing. And I'm not saying that you need to, become a, like a sellout or whatever. It's like you don't want to lead with marketing. You want to lead with talent. But I know so many incredibly talented musicians that are struggling.
Yeah.
And it's not because they're not incredible. It's not because they're not great. People don't know about them.
Yeah.
And you need, so schools, they should be teaching how to make websites, all these things just to get us to the bare minimum of what we need to be doing to succeed in the modern, musical world, because there aren't enough gigs to play 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
You need to create your own scene. You need to create your own gigs. And I think that's something that not every music program is teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, some of them are starting to add it, but I think that a lot more of them could add that type of material to the curriculum with a bit more expediency.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of an interesting take on things, and I agree with you 100% that the world has changed. I mean, it's changed everywhere, but specifically for musicians, it's certainly changed over the years. And there are like 2 points that kind of hit me. One is, who are the people that have really made the most money in the music business? It ain't the musicians. It's the agents, it's the label, it's the people that understand the business side of things. And yep. So I think that it's not that you want to be doing this for the money. You do it because you love it. But if you love it and you've invested so much of your time, your life into getting the skills in your craft, you certainly deserve to be paid for those things. And the days of they're still here, unfortunately. Well, they're not here right now, but hey, why don't you come to my restaurant and play? It'll be good exposure, as opposed to it's going to pay you. So I think that understanding how marketing works, how to create, like you said, your own scene. I really love that concept. I think that's really crucial.
And just being good at business.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so important. I know a lot of musicians, and one that I've learned a lot from, a trombone player, and he's killing it. Like this last year with the pandemic, this was his best year yet. And he's not playing gigs, but he's selling books, he's selling courses, and that just gets you to an audience. And sure, he's going to be playing gigs once everything opens up again, but he doesn't need to. He's really doing very well. So I know it's possible.
Yeah.
There's people out there doing it.
Well, yeah, and we see this historically that when things go nuts, like we are right now, like in the Great Depression or things like that. That's actually when the most innovation occurs, because people they're forced to stop doing things the way they've always been done. This is when you can really start to be creative, and people are more willing to take a new approach to things. So I think that for the musicians that like yourself, who are saying, well, what other way can I impact people? Because I think that's the bottom line is, are you playing to make money, or are you playing because you love music and you want to spread music? And music isn't just about the sounds that are coming out of your horn. It's a bigger world than that. So, you're still doing music. And once, like you said, once the economy, the gig economy opens up again, you're going to be in a good place to be able to go out, and you're still going to have the name recognition. You still got your chops up and things like that. So you're going to be able to go out there and probably be in a better place than the person who just basically sat around waiting for the next gig to happen.
Exactly. And the thing and that's something that I thought, like, right at the beginning when everything was getting shut down. I made a Facebook post, I remember, where I was saying how I think that what's going to come of this is that all these people who had these projects that they didn't have the bandwidth, they didn't have the time, all these researchers of, in science, they've got, renewed focus, there's going to be all this innovation, and it has totally changed the scene of learning globally.
Yeah.
And when I moved to Chicago like 7 years ago, at the time I had 40 students that I was teaching back in Ohio. And so I had a big studio that I gave up, and I moved to town. I didn't really have much going on here. And I tried to get as many students as I could to continue on Skype.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up, I think, with 6 or 7 students that continued on Skype. But 7 years ago, that was a tough sell. That was a challenge to get the parents on board and the students. And they were like, can you really do a lesson on Skype? Can you learn? Does it work? And I had good gear back then. And, the ones that went along with it, they were like, okay, this is cool. And I had a couple of those students that stayed on for, a couple of years even. But now, no one questions a Skype lesson.
Right.
Now, no one questions it at all. E-learning, nobody questions it. And, a lot of people, they don't even necessarily want to buy a physical book. They want a digital book now. And we recently actually just started selling a digital edition of this book. And as soon as we announced it, we got like a whole bunch of international orders
Mm-hmm.
because there's all these people, they wanted it and they didn't want to pay $35 in shipping.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want to pay all that shipping just to get a $39 book.
Yeah.
But, it's like that's how it is. People, it's a totally new landscape, even from just a couple of years ago. So, it's like there's so many opportunities and you can create your own scene. Just from doing all these Mute Monday videos, I've gotten kind of like some consult work, and I've gotten video gigs unrelated,
Mm-hmm.
from other local businesses that have seen the quality that I can create, and that's been great for helping me pay some bills while I don't have any gigs.
Yeah.
But that's kind of fallen under the umbrella of creating your own scene.
Yeah. Well, that's golden insight right there. I mean, if people don't get anything else out of this interview but that, I mean, that to me is worth the price of admission. So, if we can just come up with virtual mutes, we'll be in a much better place.
Yeah, the silent brass.
Yeah. Well.
Although I really wish they would take the silent brass and incorporate some like guitar pedal technology into it.
Modeling.
So you could turn some dials and just, because I've got a little pedal rig. I mean, it's super basic. It's nothing like the Horn FX guys. I don't know if you're hip to them.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. However, I got a little setup and I've used it on gigs before and it's pretty rad. But it would be awesome if it was just all built into a little mute.
Yeah, well, the two things. Well, the first thing, I'm waiting for someone to come up with an electronic mute that is Bluetooth as opposed to the wired headphones. I actually talked to a friend of mine whose company, he's with Best Brass, and he gave me one of his mutes, and I said, dude, you guys got to come up with a Bluetooth one because nobody's got wired headphones anymore. So, I mean, even though I'm wearing wired, in-ears, but that would make it so convenient. But I don't know if you're familiar with Slate. They're audio interface technology. They do boards and they have a microphone system that has a modeling component to it. So just very similar to what's the name of the guitar company? Line 6, like the Line 6 amps that have it's 1 amp, but yeah. So they have. So they have a microphone that the microphone's really fairly inexpensive, but to get the software to go with it, that's where it gets salty. But you could basically model any microphone, like everything from vintage ribbons to current dynamics. Just press of a button. So so if we can come up with that for mutes, just dial in your 1920s Harmon, and then
just have all the sounds sampled into it.
Yeah,
that would be totally rad.
Okay, if anybody does this, I want royalties. So
it's going to help the podcast go on in perpetuity.
Yeah, exactly. So with all the other stuff that you have going on, you've got your teaching, you've got your writing, your mutes, and all that good stuff. What other things do you do to keep yourself busy?
Ooh, outside of music?
Yeah, sure.
Well, outside of music, I love cooking. I like making things from scratch. I make pasta, fresh pasta all the time. I love working out, and so I try and work out every day, a good amount. Just always trying to learn. I listen to a lot of podcasts. We had a great garden that we were working on during lockdown that we did outside, so that was kind of fun because I was growing all these super hot peppers, and then I made my own hot sauce out of it. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, well, I see you've got some of Kenny Robinson's Remedies, who, by the way, are our sponsor for our show. I hate to tell Kenny this, but you could probably get the same effect in terms of getting circulation to your chops by just eating a couple ghost peppers or Carolina Reapers. Just rub that on there, and you'll get the buzz going. And
I think that would be a big shock to a lot of people. Yeah.
yeah,
Little ghost pepper, little reaper.
yeah,
There's some players out there. They'll do that. Mike Williams.
Well, Mike is Mike is Mike.
He could eat a sandwich of all hot peppers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he is. He's a swamp dog. So yeah, I love Mike. He's a great guy, great player.
Well, maybe they'll make a Robinson's Remedies hot sauce.
Oh, well, Kenny, there's your idea for 2021. Robinson's Remedies hot sauce. So I see you got some miles back there and some other.
That
cool.
poster. Oh, so that poster was a gift actually, and a jazz club I used to go to in Cleveland for years and years and years in my developmental stages. The Bop Stop. They closed and then they reopened, and this poster was in the Bop Stop for years and years, and the owners actually gave it to me after they closed down, just because I used to go every single Monday. But you got to have a wall of inspiration.
Yeah. So who are your inspirations back there besides Miles?
So some of these other pictures back here are actually pictures that I took. Well, I've got a picture of me and Michael Sachs, who I studied with. I have a picture of James Morrison that I took at the Green Mill, which he signed. Underneath that, there's a picture of Wallace Roney, which he signed as well. And that was actually one of his last gigs.
Oh, wow.
This was in March this year. And I think it was the first or second weekend of March that he was playing here in Chicago at the showcase. And I went and heard him, and he sounded incredible. And I always bring my camera when I'm going to, gigs where I know I'm going to hear someone great. And I take pictures, and a lot of times I will, come back the next day if I can. I'll print some out, and, I'll edit them, I'll print them out, and have them sign one. That way I've got something that I can remember and hang it up. And I always give them some copies, and I email them copies of the photos. But that was the only time I ever was able to hear Wallace live. And, I got to meet him briefly and get an autograph. But that's kind of a lot of the pictures I have up on the wall are ones that I've taken.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So who are some of your bigger inspirations on the horn?
Well, the first was Dizzy. That was the first. Somehow I got a Dizzy album from my dad, and I started listening to that. And after that, he got me, kind of a whole handful of different trumpet albums. But the next biggest influence is Clark Terry. Love Clark Terry. And I can listen to him all day, and I certainly have. So in the trumpet world, in the kind of, jazz trumpet world, I always gravitated originally towards Dizzy and then CT, and then of course Miles and Brownie and and Freddie, and kind of making my way through the decades. In the classical world, because my undergrad was classical, my master's was actually in classical trumpet as well. The classical world, then Wynton was actually his early classical. And then I'll add Wynton into the jazz because he was a huge influence on me. Wynton's classical work, just incredible. Of course, Maurice Andre, Håkan Hardenberger. There's so many players out there. But these are ones that I was really listening to kind of on repeat. As I was trying to, and I'm still listening to them, still trying to learn this thing. But as I was really in school and getting inspired and kind of developing, that's who I was listening to a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, those are great people. Yeah. CT has definitely been one of my favorites. Just I've said this before that there's no one that I've listened to that is a better example of expressing who you are, or expressing your personality through the horn. Because if you've ever, talked to him or listened to him on, doing an interview or something like that, or, and listen to him play and listen to him sing, everything is just, it's Clark. You can just feel that joy. You can feel that love for life come out through everything he does. And so, to me, that's super inspirational.
Absolutely. That's what I always loved about us playing so much. And you can hear one note. You can hear one note from him and know that it's him. And it's the same type of joy that Oscar Peterson, listening to him play. And I just love these videos on YouTube. And this is like such a great thing that exists now, YouTube, that you can just go on and watch endless live concerts, from past. But just seeing these videos of CT playing and Oscar playing, and man, he's just tearing it up. And it's hot because he's just sweating, and he's just grabbing his towel, kind of biggest smile on his face. It's like, how can you not listen to this and just, love it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and that's the power of music. That's what we're all trying to do. I mean, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, and, to take it back to, what you're doing with the Positive Trumpeter, that's it. I think sometimes we lose sight of the joy of the music, and, to borrow from CT, the fellowship of man, that's such a critical part of what we're trying to do, and we're trying to bring together the world through music, and specifically through our love of the trumpet. And because let's face it, all the other instruments, they basically suck in comparison. So we are the top of the food chain.
Well, Wynton said that once, right? That funny video he did.
Yeah. So let's do a little. Speaking of Robinsons, a few moments ago, let's do a little bit of the Robinsons rapid fire round, if you are so inclined. So this is brought to us by our good friends at Robinson's Remedies. If you want to get your chops refreshed in a hurry, show them a little chop love with Robinson's Remedies. And we're going to do a little rapid fire round. So I'm going to be throwing out some questions to see what you have to say. Your quickest response would be appreciated. But if you want to go off topic, feel free.
I have been known to do that.
All right, here we go. All right, first question. Who's the biggest influence on your life that is not a trumpet player?
Ooh, biggest influence on my life that isn't a trumpet player. Can I say my family?
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, my family. I'll say, I don't want to single anyone out.
Okay.
But I'll say my family as a whole.
That makes holidays a little funky if you single anybody out. What's your favorite book?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm not like a reader that goes back to books. I don't like read over and over and over again. I kind of read it and put it down, and I've been doing more audiobooks recently. I'll just give a little shout out to one that I finished a little more recently, and that was I think it's called The Third Door. Alex Benayan. It's kind of an interesting book, and I think it's a little on topic for what we were talking about as far as creating your own scene, and kind of finding that way to get what you want.
Cool. I'll check it out. I thought for sure you're going to say The Versatile Trumpeter, but
that's my second favorite book.
Okay. What's the worst movie you've ever seen?
Ooh, I took a course back at Oberlin. This is completely ridiculous, and it was for 1 credit. It was called an exco, so like anyone could teach them, and it was called The Worst Movies You've Never Seen. And we watched a movie that was called Murder Cycle, about like some alien motorcycle. I don't even remember. It was so bad. Everything about it was bad. So that was it.
All right, so I have to look for that Murder Cycle.
It makes Sharknado look like high cinema.
Oh, well, I thought it was high cinema. Or at least you have to be high to watch it. I was confused. If you weren't a trumpet player, what would you want to do?
Ooh. Well, growing up, I always wanted to be like in science because I love physics, I love science, and I'm very intrigued by all of that. I'm not necessarily intrigued by all of the numbers, but I'm intrigued by the concepts and the theory. Um, so maybe something in that. Otherwise, I love kind of creating.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'd be making mutes or something.
Yeah. Newtonian or quantum physics?
Ooh, I was always big into quantum physics and just kind of, I mean, I came up previously kind of like as this big, uh, Tesla, I was like
Right.
reading all these books about Tesla and learning about all that. And then I started getting it, that gateway book is Brief History of Time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once you start getting into that and you start learning a little bit about the universe and quantum physics, and then you start getting all these other books that you can hardly understand. And
Yeah.
so I kind of got into that for a little bit, and I probably would have gone that direction if I wasn't going into music.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was going to say you go down a rabbit hole, but it's actually more of a wormhole. So
Yes.
there you go. Yeah.
That's
That's
probably
definitely-
why I love the movie Interstellar so much.
Yeah. Yeah. So, besides cinematography is really cool in that.
Yeah. And of course, they hired some of the leading scientists in the world to work with the, CGI people in order to create that rendering of the black hole in that film.
Oh,
So
I
when
didn't
they
know.
released that film, it actually advanced the science because suddenly all these scientists who had the theory, they didn't have the cheddar in order to
Right.
create these 3D renderings. So they were able to work with all these Hollywood studios and actually kind of take all of that from paper and put it into something that people could see.
That's cool. I have to go back and watch that again now with that in mind. So that's a really cool thing. All right. What's your favorite drink?
Ooh, well, I'll give you two. I'll give you a 21 and younger than 21, and then so my favorite. I love coffee. I'm always drinking coffee, but otherwise, I would say bourbon. I'm always down for a bourbon.
Ooh, man, you're talking my language now. Let's dive into that one a little bit deeper. What's your favorite bourbon?
Ooh, well, that changes. Recently, I've been really enjoying the Woodford double wood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I also have a Woodford brandy cask. I don't know if you've had that.
I have not had the brandy cask.
It's not distributed. I picked it up at Woodford.
At Woodford.
We had a travel day on the road last year, and well, when you're in Kentucky,
And what are you gonna do?
you got to make some stops.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used to every year I used to get for Christmas from one of my old friends a bottle of their Master Distillers edition, so special edition, and they had there was I think it was a 7 wood
Ooh,
that they did. It was good, but it actually was just a little too much. It was one of those ones that was just
oh really?
if they would have gone with 6, it would have been fine. I think 7 was just a little too over the top. But yeah.
The brandy cask has got like a little more edge than any of the other ones, just because I imagine it's kind of taken some of that, residual brandy that was in the oak and kind of incorporating it in.
Yeah. Have you ever experimented or wanted to experiment with conditioning your own?
I've looked into it, those little barrels to get
Yeah.
at home, and I've thought about like doing my own blend and trying to see what I could do. I've got 3 batches of hot sauce brewing right now, fermenting in my closet.
Yeah.
So, that's my project for the time being.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might have to do that. I have a oak barrel sitting in my basement right now that a friend gave me years ago, and I just haven't had the wherewithal to start playing with it. But because I know me, and once I get started on something like that, it's going to be over. I'm going to have like a basement full of barrels.
How big is it?
It basically holds 750.
Okay. So
That's
just
it.
a little.
Yeah, just a little one. And actually, I saw a few years ago there was a company that made bottles out of oak.
Really?
Yeah, so it just looks like a bottle, and you just pour and some of them are actually even preconditioned, so they have like a chocolate and a cherry and stuff like that. So you just pour your spirit in there and seal it up and let it sit for a week or so, or you can condition it yourself. But it makes it so much easier because you just pour it in the bottle and then pour it out and you're done. So there's something. There you go, kids.
Yeah. One other thing I was thinking about though for next year is hard cider. I do enjoy a nice cider, and so next fall I'm gonna try and make some cider.
I think I have a special edition of the show coming up for that. I think we're gonna have to do a special distillers episode, so everybody can do their own stuff, and we can talk about our processes.
Everyone show up with a bottle.
Yeah, well, there you go. Here we go. Next question. You're going to have a dinner party. You can invite any 3 living people to that party. Who would you invite?
Any 3 living people? Ooh, that is a good question. Well, I think I would probably. Elon Musk has got to be one of them. I'd love to be able to just talk with him about whatever. He could just talk the whole time. Similarly, I think I don't know. Maybe either I would say probably either another scientist or kind of someone who's like on the leading edge of creating things or funding things. Maybe like Bill Gates or maybe President Obama. I just to be able to shake his hand, I suppose.
Yeah. That'd be a good dinner party. You're gonna have
a kind of little crazy names.
Yeah. All right. So you're gonna invite 3 more people, but these are any 3 people from history, any 3 people that are no longer with us.
Any 3 people from history no longer with us. Ooh. See, now I'm struck between my interest of science and my love of music. So, question. Do we all speak the same language?
Yes, this is magic. We all speak the same language.
Magic. They're coming back to life. We can all speak the same language.
Exactly.
Got it. Wow. This is a hard one, too. I should have prepared.
Crib notes.
Any 3 people. Well, I never had an opportunity to meet CT or Dizzy. So, I mean, I would love to be able to meet them and talk with them. It doesn't even have to be music. I just want to, know who they are as people. And maybe also, well, I got to talk to Tesla. I got to know what he was up to.
Yeah, get him at the table with Elon Musk, and and Tesla can knock him out for using his name on his.
Yeah, because Tesla is one of those historical figures where it's like half mythology and half reality. Because we have a lot of his inventions, and you can go to Niagara Falls today, and there's a statue of him commemorating his AC turbines that he beat out Edison for. Yeah,
he's very, very interesting, and like you said, it would be really interesting to get beyond the mythology.
Exactly, because there's so much that is like, well, he invented this and this and this. Well, did he really? Because he didn't take notes. It was all up in his head. He did have notes, but his laboratory burned down at one point.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Here's a trumpet question for you: lacquer, plated, or raw?
Ooh, I like plated.
Silver plated with a gold mouthpiece.
Yeah, I got the mouthpiece for free, so I didn't get to pick whether it was silver or gold. This is what they send me.
Yeah.
But I don't mind it.
Yeah.
The first time I got a gold mouthpiece, though, it took me a while to get used to it because it's a lot slipperier on the
Mm-hmm.
bass, especially like diving into salsa gigs, no AC, it's just like moving everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you're a dry player, it's it can be no fun, no bueno. What is your favorite quote?
Ooh, a quote that I've always enjoyed. Well, I'm gonna give you two quotes. Sorry, I'm breaking the rules.
Yeah, sorry.
So one of them, I think it's from cyclist Greg LeMond,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, uh, "It never gets easier; you just get faster." And you can apply that to everything,
Right.
right? The trumpet never gets easier; you just get better. You get a better sound, a range, whatever. But it's always work.
Yeah.
It's always work. So that's something to remember. Like even the pros, even someone who won the Tour de France, 5 times, it's like it's work.
Yeah.
And then the other one, this is one that I don't remember who said it originally, but lots of YouTubers say it, and it's something along the lines of um, finished is better than perfect. And it's like you got to create, you got to get it out there, and you can't let that fear of okay, it's not perfect because it's never going to be perfect.
Right.
And if you keep working towards that perfection, you actually want to have progress because you'll never finish something and put it out there.
Right. Yeah, that's great. I love that. All right. You could be granted one superpower. What would it be?
Ooh. One superpower. I can do anything.
Anything.
Hmm. That's a. I. I'm not sure. I've thought about this, except like when I was a little child, right? And then when you're a little kid, you want to like do things that seem fun, like
Yeah.
fly, right? Uh, that would make it a lot easier to get to gigs
Yeah, exactly.
and to get home. Um, but I think maybe, I would say, maybe the ability to, um, heal people. Just, I think all of us have have seen someone go through something bad that we wish that they didn't. So I
Yeah.
think that would probably be the greatest thing that I could do, as opposed to something that would be, selfish or fun.
Yeah.
I mean, then you can heal yourself too. So
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Be like Wolverine. Uh, what aspects, what aspect of trumpet playing do you feel is the most overrated?
the most, or I'm gonna say gear. I think people place way too much. Um, I think they think the trumpet is more important than it is, and that it affects things like more than it is. Sure, you need a great trumpet and a great mouthpiece, but like there's so much more to being a musician and playing that isn't the gear. And I think that people, I don't know, there's a lot of retail therapy going on when there
Yeah.
should be practice room therapy going on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when you get to that point, yeah, when you get to a point where uh, those little differences, can make or break you, then that's one thing. But for the average player, it's
Yeah, once you're a pro, then little differences are going to be noticeable. But if you're starting out, if you're a beginner, if you're an amateur, uh, then whatever problems you think your gear is causing in your life, it's probably not.
yeah, yeah. That $10,000 horn isn't going to make you play $10,000 better.
I mean, look at someone like Trent Austin. He owns a trumpet shop. He can pick up every one of those trumpets and sound amazing.
Yeah,
vintage, new, doesn't matter. Plastic, picks it up, sounds great. Uh, it's
Yeah.
not the gear.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. Exactly right. All right. So we know what the most overrated is. What do you think is the most underrated aspect of trumpet playing?
Underrated. Imagination.
Mm, okay. I don't think I've had anybody answer that.
I think it's imagination because, and that kind of fits in with the other one. I think that so many, I mean, the people that we listen to, that we love, that we identify with the most, we don't identify with them because of any, it's not like a technical, I mean, like we have connections because they're connecting with us on like an emotional level.
Right.
And that is all born and created in your imagination. Like your sound is created in your imagination. It's made
Mm-hmm.
in your head. And your sound is created before it goes into the trumpet. Like once the air passes through your lips and that vibration happens, you can't alter that sound wave. You can't change it after it's happened.
Mm-hmm.
You can listen and then try and, adjust based off of what you've heard. But then you're always playing catch up.
Yeah.
With your imagination, you create that signal appear, boom. That's how you execute on the trumpet, in my opinion. It's like you have that strength of mental clarity
Mm-hmm.
and imagination that you really are hearing, what you want. But then also, just creating something new. It's like using your most powerful asset, which is your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great. I love it, man. All right. You can go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice about music. What would it be?
Go back in time. One piece. um, that's buy Bitcoin. No, that will help my music.
Yeah. Bitcoin and Mac stocks.
Yeah, I go back in time and tell myself one piece of advice. I think it would be just to, um, that there's no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts to success. It's like consistent playing and consistent progress is created through consistent practice. Because I think we've all, especially as young players, I know that there were certain times that I got derailed where I was, looking for a shortcut. And there was a couple times where that actually kind of negatively, impacted my playing for quite a while, actually.
Mm.
So I think that probably would have helped me.
Yeah. Okay, cool. You're back there chatting with yourself some more. What advice would you want to give your younger self about life?
I would say, well, I would probably say not to worry about what other people think. Don't put as much. Don't give people power
Mm-hmm.
over you. Based on what you think they may think, or or what they do think. Because at the end of the day, you got to be you, and you got to do your thing.
Right. Cool.
And
All
that's
right. Fine.
kind of ties into that whole PTW.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right. Final question. What do you want your legacy to be?
Ooh, well, I don't want a mute carved into my headstone.
We're going to bury you in a mute. That's what it is.
Yeah, in a gigantic mute sarcophagus. My legacy. Well, if I could have a legacy just of, you know, being a good person that was being helpful and having a contribution to the world, in any way, then I think that's a good legacy.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily, I don't want or necessarily need to be remembered for any specific, thing, music or trumpet. If I can impact people in a positive way, in any way, then I think that's a good legacy, or help people.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you're certainly doing a lot to help all of us. So thank you for all of your hard work, for your videos that you're doing, the work on Positive Trumpeters Worldwide, and just your book with Raj, and all the great things that you're doing. So if you want to find out more about Josh and what he's up to, you can just follow the links in the descriptions above, depending on where we are. And you can connect with him through both Facebook, YouTube, and all of his other resources, his website. So, Josh, man, thank you so much for taking time to hang out with me today. It's been great, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know you even better. I think we've got so much in common. We can sit down and have a couple bottles of bourbon as we discuss Tesla and quantum entanglement. So
Perfect. That sounds great. Well, thank you so much for inviting me and for having me here. I really appreciate that. I love what you're doing with this podcast. I've been catching up with the episodes, and it's equally valuable and just great for the trumpet world.
Well, awesome, man. I appreciate it. All right, so we are done with our episode for today. So again, if you want to keep up with Josh, if you want to get a copy of his Versatile Trumpeter book, certainly do that. If you've got somebody to play duets with, if not, buy it for yourself, record yourself, and then play with. Well, I want to say play with yourself.
The book actually comes with recordings too.
Oh, even better, even better.
Me and Roger recorded all the parts with a live band. So you can play in any configuration. With the band, with me, with Roger.
That sounds great. So I'm gonna have to get myself a copy of that to go with my 1920s Harmon mute. So thanks for spending time with us today, and we'll hope to catch you on another episode of the Trumpet Gurus Hang podcast. And until then, peace and slide grease. We out. Hey, thank you so much for hanging with us today. This podcast is all about creating connection through our mutual love for the trumpet life. I hope that you learned a few things about today's guest and had some laughs along the way. Don't forget to give us a review. We love those 5-star ratings. And please share this podcast with your friends. We want to see our hang grow for show. Have a suggestion for a future topic or a guest? Hit me up at thetrumpetgurus@gmail.com. Our opening theme was written and performed by Lexi Signor, and all other music comes courtesy of The Greatest Funeral Ever. So in the words of W.C. Handy, life is like a trumpet. If you don't put anything into it, you don't get anything out. So go out there and let your trumpet sound. And I'll see you at the next hang.